Hello, everybody. This is Taoufik. We come back to our Mondays Zoom meeting. Lynn will be online in just a short while, and the subject today will be moral values and good manners in this world. I mean, in today's world. We miss you and looking forward to have you again together with Taoufik and Lynn Essadiki. Okay, Lynn, the stage is yours. Everyone will be here in a short while. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Okay, let's just wait for people.
Sure.
You know, there's no point talking to each other.
I hope there will be much people, not like last time where only you, me, and
I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee because I never know who's going to come and who's not coming.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you told me that Tsukina will definitely be here.
He's
today,
the one
right?
who told me she's coming. I don't know about anybody else.
Okay, that's great. Okay, waiting.
Okay.
Good. We just started at 1 p.m. New York time. Yeah. Let's do it. Yes.
Okay, as soon as they come, it's 1:01.
Sure. Yeah. I just get in my real breakfast, okay? I made some Moroccan cookies, or let me say, not cookies, they are special cookies that we made in Ramadan.
Shebekia.
Okay.
Shebekia.
Yeah, it's made with several ingredients and Moroccan special sweet spices. And we usually get it in Ramadan at sunset time after we fast. In general, people fast for the whole day, let me say, from sunrise to sunset. And once we break our fast, we I'm talking about Morocco, we have special soup harira. We have those cookies sweet with honey and many other stuff, you see, we call shebekia, and dates, special dates, the best quality, we call majhool dates, and other stuff, cookies. And one thing I want to be I want to explain that Ramadan is not only about fasting and eating. Okay, so it's not only about food, but food is a part of the process of fasting.
It's a part of every holiday in every country.
Every holiday, yes, but Ramadan especially is done or is celebrated for charity, experiencing hunger, that homeless people or people with no means, actually they don't have enough food, so actually they have this lack of food during the whole year. So we, when we fast for Ramadan, we fast for 1 month, as I said, from sunrise to sunset, just to experience how those people with, in general, poor people or who have hunger issues during the whole. So we, by fasting, we we support and we experience the hunger those people have all the year, And the other side, I said supporting and helping and supporting poor people who couldn't afford their daily dose of food, and at the same time to show them that we are here to be supportive to you and to give, charity. We call it sadaqah in Islam, called sadaqah, and
we call it tzedakah. In the Hebrew Jewish, it's called tzedakah.
Yeah, the same thing, my
same
sweet
thing, same exact thing. And we have our holy holiday. It's called Yom Kippur, where you're not supposed to eat.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to drive. You're not supposed to do anything. It's strictly a fasting holiday.
Yeah, we fast as for the information. Many people in different faith has this fasting stuff in their rituals. So
Mm-hmm.
Muslims, Jews, you have and some Christian too. Anyway, so the sadaqah or giving charity, giving especially money. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
money. Because money help everyone to buy what he doesn't have. So we give money, we give food, but the most important thing about sadaqah or charity, and we call it in sometimes zakat. Zakat, especially for Muslims, zakat is not a sadaqah given every day or whatever you want. It doesn't. They don't mention the exact amount that you give for sadaqah, but zakat we every Muslim during the fast who fasts and celebrate Ramadan. At the end of the break, the fast, I mean the breakfast, the 8th day when we celebrate the breakfast, we give certain amount with a percentage. Everyone is supposed to give this zakat, which is different than sadaqah. Zakat is calculated in general by Muslim scholars or overall Islamic countries. It's almost a percentage from what you consume every day, food consumption every day. So we give the person in general, depending on how many people you are in the family. Let's say me and Lynn we are two. We have no kids, but we should give two parts for zakat, one for Lynn and one for me. And I don't know here in US what the scholars, the ulama or imam, said about this specific amount. But in Morocco, my country, we give this zakat, not sadaqah, to poor people before Eid during the
Mm-hmm.
last week of Ramadan, and we give almost in Morocco. I don't know how much is it here in US. We give almost this year they specified it at, let me say, for $5 for each one. That means that me and Lynn, we will get 5 plus 5 or $10 to give to anyone in money. It's cash, not food or something. Anyway, this is the difference between sadaqah and zakat. And among other people, we said we give sadaqah, we give zakat, we fast for food, but charity and help and support for other people, especially homeless for people, is the main pillar of fasting. Unfortunately, many people and many Muslims around the world, I don't say everyone or most people just think that fast Ramadan is about fasting only. Stop to eat and stop to get, sex or legal with the sex with your people. Anyway, I will finish later on. Maybe one day we will talk about Ramadan or fasting in different phase. Okay,
Okay. Whatever
Sanam is
that
here.
is.
Sanam is here. I
Good.
closed
Great.
them. Yeah. Let's
Hi,
see.
Sanam.
Shirley is here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Somebody else. Oh, good. Terrific.
Yes,
Hi.
Hello.
hello. I
How
wanna
are
say
you?
Hello,
hello.
everyone. We
I just
miss you,
got an email.
Sanam.
I just got an email from Bernadette. I didn't open it yet. It's probably a new link for the next
Oh, yeah.
session.
Oh,
Good.
So
great,
I'll see. As
great.
soon as I open it, I'll find out what it is. I just got it
Hello,
now.
Hollywood lady. We miss you, Hollywood lady.
Hello, I'm here a little
Hello.
late. I'm sorry.
That's
No, it's
But
okay.
I'm
We were
here.
talking.
I'm
Yeah, we
8
okay.
were
minutes
talking, me
late.
and Lee,
The only other
about
person I'm really expecting is Lasita
Sakina.
and
Sakina.
Zucana, but I don't know about Zucana, so I'm not going to say
Okay.
we're going to start, and we're going to
Okay.
start with today. We're talking a little bit about values and manners. Yesterday,
Yes.
my friend Shirley and I, and she's sitting there, we talked a lot about that, and because in today's world,
Mhm.
things are so different than they were when we were kids.
Yeah.
Even the way the world treats each other, the lack of respect that people have for each other. There's no more hold open the door, whack right in the face. It's more than that. It's just it's a matter of not we don't want to go too far range, but it's a matter of not caring as much as they used to be caring. And there are so many different facets. This could go all the way out and really, really get carried away. And I don't want to get carried away. So let's stick to one subject at a time. Shirley, yesterday we discussed a lot of things. You could start off by saying one thing, then we'll go to Sanam, then Taoufik, and then myself, and we'll keep going. Go ahead.
Okay, but I don't know where I'm supposed to start.
Anywhere you want to, dear.
Anything, just say 1, 2, 3, and you go.
Well,
Yeah.
there is so much dissent and disparity between just in this country right now, and it really started running across the nation when Trump was elected.
Yeah.
Disrespect for people's human rights, disrespect for women's rights, disrespect for Black Lives Matters, for example. The turmoil that was in the underbelly of a group of people has exploded in this country. And I guess I'm thinking of yesterday or the day before. Marjorie Taylor Greene was interviewed. Marjorie Taylor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Good.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was questioned a couple of days ago, and this woman who has just riled up so many problems and been beyond supporting Trump. She is nuts. She just sat there smiling and saying, I don't remember anything. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And that was it. This woman who on a regular basis publicly attacks any Democrat in office, any liberal in office, she's just, I can't even call her right wing. She's beyond that. She's like from Mars. But her complete disrespect for dignity and grace and courtesy, every time she opens her mouth, I've never seen anything so disrespectful in my life as what's going on right now. And I thought maybe we thought that when Trump lost, that would be goodbye, adios.
No.
But it hasn't been at all. It just, he's, just before I got on, I was reading another little book about if he runs in 2024. If he runs in 2024, he should never be allowed to step on a stage.
Yeah, and how are you going to stop him?
How do you stop him?
That's right.
Look what happened to Kevin McCarthy, I can't stand it. He's the Republican majority leader, representative of the Republicans in the House. And he said that he told just last week, he made a statement that Trump probably shouldn't run again because of all the baggage. And within hours, he retracted the whole thing. He was bowing at the feet of Donald Trump. He wants to be Speaker of the House. He wants the Republicans to totally take over. And he just for a second, there was like a bit of humanity from him. And then getting chastised by Trump turned everything back around. Nope, I didn't mean it, didn't mean it that way. Misunderstand me. Trump is the greatest thing in the world, blah, 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 blah. So even, at our leadership role, we see so much disrespect, culminating in what happened on January the 6th of 2020. When I go locally, just, on a one-on-one, I don't know, of course, we're a driving population out here, although we certainly have many more metro lines than we would have imagined. We still are a driving culture out here. I am absolutely shocked at just the car racing that goes on, not on even out. I mean, if they wanted to race, they used to go out to the desert. You go to Palmdale, they go down to the desert and they'd race their cars and didn't hurt anybody. Now they're racing on the streets.
Oh my God.
We have at intersections, nothing is no, one thing did happen here in Long Beach recently. They pick an intersection, they just storm it with people who want to watch these horrific car races, and then they do wheelies real fast on the streets, and they're actually destroying the streets that they were there driving in these outrageous on a daily basis. My girlfriend's car was just totaled. She's had a Mercedes for 17 years.
And the authorities don't stop that. Authorities, they don't stop.
No,
them
they're
to
not
do
stopping
that.
it.
How is that?
I guess because it's I don't know why. They get there too late, and when they get there, then everybody runs. But there's been fatalities, there's been destruction of other people's property, and it's destruction to the streets when this happens, just because of doing wheelies on asphalt.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see
I
what
can't
it
believe
does
that
in an
there's no
intersection.
law. I can't believe that there's no law against that. That's
There's
what
no
I-
law. And if there was, they'd break it anyway.
Are they specific people who do that? Let's say, are they nationalists or what we call white extreme, or
You know
just
what?
everyone?
I don't want to peg one group, but in this
No, you-
particular discussion,
Okay.
it is Hispanic.
Okay. Okay.
That's it's
Yeah.
they have a hotline, and
Yeah.
it tell people, hey, meet at the corner of such and such and such and such at 9 o'clock at night, and we're
Oh
gonna
my God.
we're gonna have a race around the intersection, and it's unbelievable
Very
how
dangerous.
fast they go, the way they tear up the streets.
Mm.
Occasionally there's a crash, but it just keeps happening. There's no stopping.
There are no ordinances or laws that say you can't do
No,
that.
there are laws. Yeah, but it's
they're not-
it's out of it. If you're a cop and you're trying to go stop 20 cars that are doing wheelies on a street and 200 people watching it, yay, yay, rah, rah. It's just unbelievable.
Is that happened before or just lately?
It's been happening for about 2 years.
Oh my
It
God.
started really getting
Okay.
bad around the time of the last presidential election. In the number of times I see it on the news,
Okay, so now we
Yeah,
have
okay,
one.
okay.
we had and
Yeah.
let me just tell you this, that I don't live in the upper echelon of Long Beach, but I live close to it. We're the
Yeah.
average people that live in, like, my house is a 1918 bungalow, and we're 6 long blocks from the ocean. I can just get on my street, out of my driveway, and walk to the beach, and it's, in like 8 minutes, I'm there. A couple of weeks ago, at the corner of, which won't mean anything to you, Granada and 2nd Street, this is the but the Beverly Hills of Long Beach,
Okay,
doing wheelies all over 2nd Street. And when they got caught there, they moved down to the other end of 2nd Street and did it all over again. And this neighborhood has become, it used to be a funky neighborhood where I lived in the little Belmont Shore area. When I lived there, it was just a lot of teachers and young students from University of California at Long Beach. There was nothing like this going on. It was unheard of.
Mm.
Here they are. They picked one of the wealthiest corners in Long Beach, down in Naples and Belmont Shore, and just went on a massacre of the street, doing
Terrible.
wheelies in the middle of the night. And they always get away. It's like they have a maybe a lookout person. Here
Maybe
they come,
that
here they
person
come.
police department is being paid off. Isn't that possible?
Or that could be too. Who knows?
Okay. Now that shows you what's going on in California. We're going to keep going around.
That's
We
just
have
one
lots
little
of
thing.
issues.
Yeah, but
Right.
boy,
We
that's
have lots of, yeah, I know. We're going to keep
bad
going.
one.
We have lots of issues. Sanam, what do you think is the biggest issue facing New York right now, which has to do with virtues, values, manners, etc.?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, talking about a car culture, I think, you know, here, I mean, some folks do use cars or have access, but in general, I kind of think of the city, especially maybe not New York State, but the city as sort of like a bus and train
Yes,
kind of
definitely.
city, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, in terms of manners and so forth, a lot of people, there are two things that I often see that, you know, kind of, you know, people always kind of speak about, but, and, you know, you don't know how exactly, if it's not your child, how to, you know, kind of, in an effective way impart, but, you know, the manners of, like, for example, people getting up to give a seat. I saw someone, they not only were kind of, I think on the elderly side, but they were using a walker itself. And no one, you know, I think she had like a caretaker or someone with her, like a friend or something.
Mhm.
And he was, you know, announcing, oh, can someone give, you know, please stand up for her or offer her your seat, or, you know, and for maybe a number of stops, no one did until people, like enough people got off. And I was like, you know that people hear him, you know, that people know what's going on, but they still do nothing, you know.
They ignore
So that-
it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, sometimes you may not understand or something, but this or you may not hear or see them, see someone who needs, you know, a seat. But they were, in my view, kind of blatantly just sort of disregarding the guy's, her friend's pleas to, you know,
It's a kind of
It's like her.
selfishness. No one is caring at all.
yeah, I mean, it kind of, you know, and it's funny, I don't know, if this is also something, someone was once saying that the mark of manners, like if you are in a store and you put back the shopping cart as opposed to just leave it wherever, you know, that's also like, you know,
Yeah.
that's one indication, like,
Yes.
you know, of people who, you know, because that's something very basic that you can do. And, you know, but yeah, no, it's funny. It also with wheelies, I have a feeling that might have happened. And this is not, I don't know, but that something like that in terms of Shirley was mentioning in terms of her friend's car getting totaled. A couple of years ago, I think something similar might have happened with me. I don't know why why the crash occurred, but it was a number of 18 and 19-year-olds in a
Oh.
BMW. And I think the road that they went, it's a main road, but people tend to go fast. And actually, it's funny, since then, they've changed the bus stops a little bit, I think, to slow folks down. But yeah, so I have a feeling that that's, you know, racing, you know, it's funny when you mentioned, like, why don't the authorities go after it, or why don't, you know,
Yeah.
I guess like resources are finite, right? I don't know, but, or maybe like, I think you guys were suggesting like, oh, they're paid off or whatever. But, you know,
Yeah.
I
Possible.
mean, yeah. It's
I don't
funny,
think there's
feel like-
enough cops to stop this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
very much-
if they bust up one corner, then the next thing you know, they're at another corner, at another intersection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
It's really
a kind
difficult for,
of-
and I'm not a big fan of the police overall. I've said that many times.
None of us are going out and
But you know
holding
what?
them.
They don't have,
Mm.
you can't send 2 patrol cars out into a middle of 500 people at an four-way intersection and making donuts on the street, most likely you would get killed.
It's a kind of race of egoism, individualism that is spreading now on the streets. I guess everywhere in US and even other countries, but it's a rise of egoism, individualism, and people don't care. Everyone is selfish. And to be fair, it's not all over. I give an example from New York City. As you know, New York City is a kind of mixture of many ethnicities and people. There is a kind of
So
kind
is
of
Southern
respect
California.
in some way, some kind of respect, but still there. And when we used to get to take the subway, I mean the underground train, me and Marlene going to our schools or volunteering, we noticed that even in the trains, there were seats and there were people standing up in the train, but in general, no one.
No one gets you a seat.
Yeah,
Economic right. Nobody
Yeah,
gets
no
up and
one
gives
can
a seat.
keep it seat,
Well,
even
if you look
they-
at right now, I am still, I read a quick article this morning. Did you hear about Kevin McCarthy, who made a statement against Trump?
Yes,
Who
you
is
just
he?
said it before.
And
is he?
he, within less than a day, he retracted that
Yeah, you just said that.
statement just
Right.
because Trump called him.
Okay.
They
Now-
follow him like lemmings.
I
And
know.
Oh my
That's
God.
the
changed
behavior of
anyway.
this man alone, I think he sits at the top of just causing the disruption across this country.
Okay, so now, did you have anything else to say about New York at this minute?
Well, I think the start, I mean, really everywhere, but I think even in New York, because, there's so many kind of things going on, a lot of, as they say, sensory overload, maybe,
Yeah.
but, it really starts at, young, learning those kind of values and ethics and manners, whether it's, how you speak with elders. And I guess every generation feels a little bit like, oh, we never did that when I was a kid, but I think,
Yeah.
maybe
Right.
there's certain, I don't know, I guess I'm old fashioned too. I think something should be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like timeless, like just.
Yeah, right, but it
like-
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think that, maybe because in this big city, everyone is so high strung and kind of on, I guess on edge, in terms of just like stress levels and everything. And to be honest, I'm wondering, not only, I mean, I'm sure it has, in terms of the pandemic, how that is impacted, like.
Oh, I'm sure that it has
You're right.
very big
You're right.
impact.
Yeah, because if
You're
we're
right.
not face to face with each other as much, if we're not around each other as much, like, are we gonna know what to do and
Yeah.
how to treat each other? But I think in some ways it preceded the pandemic, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that
Oh yeah.
we
Yeah.
and like
Let it
I
finish.
think Shirley was saying, like, the leadership level, it comes, and
Yeah,
having
that's what our problem is. Now, to me, now I'll talk. The biggest problem is public transportation to begin with. I mean, we have a lot of problems. There is not enough money that they could give me, and believe me, I need money, to walk onto a train today, knowing that I could be attacked.
Yeah.
Knowing that,
Yeah.
and just Vicky's daughter was on the train the other day. Vicky's daughter lives in New York, and she was on the train the other day, going to the theater, and the guy, all of a sudden, a white gentleman, made believe like he had a gun. Maybe he did have a gun. She didn't turn around to look, and he said, "I'm going to get everybody in this car." And he pulled the black lady over to him as if he was going to threaten her. Now, this is like a Hollywood scene. Unfortunately, it's been happening too often. Every week, there's another incident on the train. Our transportation, to me, is one of the biggest problems that we have.
Yeah.
And I thought that that would change because they, after the first 3 or 4 deaths on the train, they said they were going to put policemen in each car. And I understand that it's a matter of money, but do you see any police in each car? I don't go, but I
No.
know that my friend's daughter told me
No.
that she didn't see any police except on the platform, but not in the cars. So
Same
what's the
out
good-
here, Lynn. I don't see any cops on, we have a pretty decent train state.
Don't compare yours to ours, Shirley.
Oh, I
Ours
can't.
is
No, we're not,
very
not at
bad.
all. No, the number one reason is we can't get people out of their cars. And and I know I, as a woman, before I retired my business, there's no way I would get on a train with all the samples I had, and what amounted to a lot of cat money. There's no way I would have taken a train to a store up in Burbank, because I don't think I would make it up there.
Well, that's what's happening today. There were threats. There were all kinds of crazy people. That not only crazy. I understand and I sympathize, Sanam, and especially Sanam, because she's a New Yorker like I am. I understand and I sympathize with anybody who says that they need help. Yeah, they need help, but the people on the train need help too, because they're the ones that they're attacking. I do say that what we should do, and they are trying to do it, and I have a friend who's part of this, that they should, there are mental health counselors trying to get the homeless people. Not everybody that's attacking is homeless too. So
Oh, no, not at
they're
all.
trying to get mental health counselors to get the homeless into shelters and places like that. Now, I read an interesting article and I heard it on the news too, that out of 20 homeless people that they took from the train stations, only 4 would go into a shelter. The rest refused to go in. Now that in itself says something for New York shelters. If they're afraid, that's a big factor.
When Reagan was president, and what a shame that was.
Yeah, well, another
that
good
was-
moment
it
in America's history.
Unbelievable. Almost not, but I will say Reagan makes Trump look like an angel, but Reagan was not bright, but he was charismatic.
He wasn't anything like.
He just was charismatic. That to some people, I couldn't stand him. I have a cartoon of him by the great Pulitzer Prize winner Paul Conrad, and it's Reagan kicking a homeless person into the gutter, and then saying underneath it says, "Get a job." That you've got that attitude too. There are people who are
I'm
desperate.
glad you brought that up. That's very important.
You have the governor of the state of California.
There was a part that encourages this, is that in US there was a big difference between rich people and and many people are down. Even the middle class,
huge,
even in the middle class part, there was almost no middle class anymore in US, especially after during Corona and after that. And mass media also encouraged that. When we see it, me and Lynn, and watching the TV, I myself feel so crazy about the commercials that they show in TV. When you watch a movie or you watch a program, the quantity of commercials that they broadcast is more huge than the time for the shows. My point is that there was a huge difference between rich people and poor people. That's why. And this encourages, or this reflects what we are experiencing now: the lack of moral values, the lack of manners. This also has the big repercussion on what is happening. Big difference. There are a lot more people, more rich people, and less people who can even pay their daily expenses. The social classes are so big difference between everyone, and this encourages or make these moral values and manners go down. I'm sure of that.
Okay,
It's
so I
like-
have a question for everyone.
I have a question for, can I ask a question real quick before I
Yeah,
forget it? My brain's always modeled.
Go ahead. Who
Um,
is the question directed to?
all of you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, hit it.
The I see this on so many levels that when there was a time when I would not have thought I would have to say thank you to every person who was kind to me on the street, opening a door for me. I was walking into a Starbucks. There was a guy right in front of me, and I was right behind him as he opened the door. I thought, oh, how sweet, he's opening the door for me. And then he shut it. And the door hit me on my nose.
Oh my God.
And the baristas knew me, and I had tears just, from the shock. They were all like, we can't believe he just did that to you. They don't open it. I was nothing. I was an invisible being behind us.
The
Probably
biggest problem, yeah, and the biggest problem there is that people are in a rush. They just
rush,
want to,
and they don't care
yeah.
about the other people.
right, everything has to be done in a certain set amount of time, and they're not thinking about other people or being considerate, which is a
Yeah.
very factor, and it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
We have a lot
This
of
is-
things that we could be discussing here, and this is what we're seeing here is we're discussing transportation, what goes on in California, what goes on in New York, and we're talking about those things, but just having civil decency for other people is a big deal. Even if you run into somebody by accident. I think another big problem that I see in New York, and I haven't been in the city for a while because I just haven't wanted to go. But what I see is the cell phone thing. People are so busy on their cell phones. The last two times I was there, somebody walked right into me twice.
Right.
Because they don't look up from their cell phone. It's ding, ding, ding. And that is manners and that is rudeness. You take it away. And it's like the same thing when a family eats dinner. Years ago, when you sat down to dinner, we didn't have this shit. So, excuse me. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. So Shirley's used to me, but you're not, so now. Years ago, we didn't have this stuff. You knew that your parents told you it's dinner time. You had to come in from playing in the street or doing whatever you did. And you had dinner and you were decent to each other, no matter how you felt about each other secretly. And you sat there and you had dinner and you did the right thing. Today, there's no such thing as that. Everybody does their own thing. And the cell phones at the tables and the this and the that. And it's a rude world. And I really think that the technology has a lot to do with it. I love technology because we wouldn't be here right now if
That's
it wasn't
right.
for technology.
But the downside is that they can see anything, anywhere. My brother used to always, he read 2 newspapers every morning, as far back as I can remember, even when I think when we both started reading newspapers seriously was when we lived in Germany. And I was 10 when we got there and he was 8. And we read the newspaper every day, the Stars and Stripes newspaper. People don't read the paper anymore, so they have to make it flashy and they have to get your interest by showing car races, racing through the mountains, racing across the Golden Gate Bridge, and that people suddenly think, oh, I can do that. That's another bugaboo of mine. There's the automobile companies, notice, if you will, the number of car advertisements that are done with a racing car.
Yeah.
Very true.
And yet none of us should be driving at that speed in any car.
But they're showing it on air, so people say, "Oh,
it's all over." So again, people think, "Oh, that's okay," and there's nary a day that goes by that someone isn't killed in a fast speed car accident.
Yeah, and there was another point I want to focus on is that the family spirit in general between people and families. And let me say, for example, when someone is sick, in every part of the family in general, and no one, there was no more values like was before. For example, if someone is sick and having trouble with friends, families, neighbors, there is no more interest in asking about this guy who is sick or this family. Everyone, when you are in good shape, everyone, hello, Habibi, every good, thing is good. But when you get sick or when you get in trouble, almost no one is looking after you or just holding the phone. How are you doing? How things are you feeling better? And this is like right now, even in other countries. I speak about my Morocco. Before there were a lot of family spirit, family naked. So it was civilized to say, or someone is sick, they go visit him or her. They they offer help. They go visit. They bring some food to that guy or who is sick, and there was a tie between families in this stuff. Here in US, when I came here, it didn't start only after Corona, but I noticed that it's common here. People don't care about others, especially, let me say, family, even families. We experienced that with me and Lynn. I'm not saying anything private, but when Lynn got that cancer in the beginning and later on, we had less friends to ask about us. Some people who we thought are good friends or family or sure,
It was an eye opener.
yes, they just disappeared. You understand what I mean? They just disappeared, and there's no. Where is the linking? Where is the friendship? Where is the human side? Just like this, 1, 2, 3. No one is calling. No one is. I don't generalize. I mean, there was still great people
Some wonderful
during
people.
suffering about my beloved Lynn experienced health issue with cancer. Believe me, many people disappeared. No one cares anymore. But to be fair, there was still good people, friends, colleagues who do that, but no more. And we spend that ourselves. Until now, many people, when we were in Morocco or when we come here, Lynn and Taoufik, oh, they're good, they're asking, how are you? But once she got that nasty disease, which is cancer, no one was caring and no one caring anymore. And this really kills our deep feeling on that. So I mentioned Morocco. Morocco too. We used to have good people, good manners because of the faith, but believe me, nowadays, the same, I'm sorry, BS, bullshit is happening in all over the world. We were supposed to be, as they say, Muslim type. There was no all Muslim type. They are just bullshit and no one cares anymore, especially in families. And this also a part of lack of moral values and good manners. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I guess everyone, experiences this too.
There's another element that has risen in this country, and it didn't just happen overnight. I grew up, as you know, in a lot of different places. I went to 9 schools in 12 years because my father was an Army officer.
Yeah.
And no matter where, one of the most beautiful things that I can remember as a child at 10, 11 was when we took a trip. We left Heidelberg and we went into Switzerland, and then we went from there into northern Italy, and my dad got lost. Very typical of my dad. He didn't know where we were. I can remember looking out the window and seeing the Adriatic Sea right there on this little narrow road. We were lost and it was pitch dark. We just kept winding up this hill, this mountain. And suddenly there we were in a little village. And everyone in the village was watching a TV, one TV in the village.
How do you like that?
And we pulled in and everybody ran to our car. Americana, Americana, oh, Americana. They loved us back then. They loved us. They gave us free hotel, free dinner, and free breakfast. They were so happy to see Americans. And then we went on our way.
Not like that today.
That wouldn't happen today.
No,
It wouldn't happen
No,
today.
if
And
no
it
one
sure
does
wouldn't
that-
happen in this country because God forbid you might bring a Muslim or an African American or an Asian to your as your date or as your friend or whatever. This and I think this really began. It started with the Tea Party, but Donald Trump made it the ugliest thing that's happening in this country now. And the son of a biscuit eater will not go away. He will not go away.
Okay. Now, I have a question. Basically, I'm going to address it to Sanam, and then I'm going to go like around robin. Do you think, and I don't want anybody interfering, let I answer the question, then we're going to go an around robin thing. Do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement helped or made things worse?
You know, I think in this sense, and no movement, especially this last week or two, there have been like news reports about the money management and so forth. And unfortunately, I haven't really, known enough to make a determination either way, but no organization is perfect. But I would say that it is important to have discussions.
I agree.
And so if that organization sparked discussions and allowed for more inclusion of views, more and on personal levels and corporate levels, although honestly, corporations really, sometimes like it kind of, I don't know, but whatever. But, because I think there is, a feeling that, we've solved this problem of race, or, we elected Barack Obama, so, we're in a, we solved all those issues. And there's no way to deny progress on a lot of these fronts, whether it's racial, gender equality, what have you. But at the same time, there are, I think, realities and perspectives and stories that hopefully will be brought up. And it's devastating that it has to be maybe in response to a tragedy. But I think if it sparks more conversation, like for example, George Floyd,
Right.
I don't know anyone who would say that to be honest, maybe that is a unique situation, and hopefully it is. But even people who thought maybe he deserved to be arrested, I
Nobody
don't
deserves
know
that.
anyone thought he
Not in the way,
deserved
no.
to die. Yeah, like and you wonder, okay, so what do we do collectively, and also, how do we help people process that trauma, of seeing like, that could have been my son, that could have been my father. that could have been,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
that's part of, I think,
Exactly.
so in that sense, I think, and in a way that, hopefully brings people more understanding, not less, you know, so yeah, and doesn't, yeah, like there was, I don't know if you guys saw, actually, there was a congresswoman, I think on the state level from Michigan, and she had this really great speech about, you know, just in terms of all these cultural issues coming up about, you know, for example, race and LGBTQ and so forth, you know, and just the whole notion of having coming at these issues with love toward everybody, and hopefully, you know, at least, you know, trying to have an open mind and you know, open dialogue. So in that sense, I think BLM and similar movements, you know, and you know, putting aside, I guess, you know, any issues, you know, I don't know the financial stuff, but you know, I think in general, it has helped in the sense, if it helped people feel their voices are heard. Mhm.
Exactly.
I'm just
And that's
thinking,
the
it
part
wasn't
that-
it.
Say one thing. That's the part that I totally agree with. If you can get out there and be heard, and you're talking about the difference even in equality, and now you have a right to get your voice heard, whether it's a gay issue or a black issue or a pink or a purple issue, the point is you have a right to be heard. And I think that that's what I see the difference is. Also, there's a difference in the way that we're looking at the police today, that they're being scrutinized when they should have been scrutinized years ago, when that happened with Amadou Diallo and all the other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I watched a
Now, all of a sudden,
documentary
we're
on that.
waking up, you know?
You know, the Aubrey kid that was shot running through the
Right,
neighborhood.
exactly.
I saw the
Mhm.
documentary on it. It was so horrific what they did to this boy. They were hunting him down, just like in the old South, when they would send dogs out and hunt the slave that ran away, and then they'd hang him from a tree. This
That's
is
why-
exactly what it was.
I
Only it
think
was
it's
in,
good. I think the Black Lives Matter and any of these causes where they can actually get out and really speak for them, or maybe some voice to the voiceless, of people who don't want to get out there and speak. I think that it helps. I think that it has shown us that we do have a right to talk, regardless of who we are. And it's important. Thank you, Sana. It's important to be able to express ourselves. And this is an issue where I personally thought, I was hoping somebody would say that, but I personally thought that it has helped. It has helped. I remember when the movement started, which was years and years ago, and we marched in the streets. And I was so amazed because there were policemen who marched with us for the Black Lives Matter. And I just felt so part of New York at that point. It felt so good to be a part of this. And there were as many white people as there were black marching. There were people of all walks of life. And that's what I think was the most wonderful thing, is that they were standing up for a cause. It wasn't about me, it's about somebody else. And that's what the difference is.
Let me, if you don't mind, Lynn, let me mention something. Is yes, you're right. Black Lives Matters is a good thing, and we can see now everywhere black and white people. Even there were connections, marriages between black and white or any other race, and all this is good. But don't forget, I noticed one thing is that there were still, I'm not meaning only black people, but many other ethnicities. They will never forget what they had endured during slavery time.
That's
Let
right.
me-
I don't blame
be
them. I wouldn't
let
either.
me be more specific. Yes, right. Even in the 60s, as our sister Shirley mentioned now, black people couldn't have a seat in a bus together with white people. Black people were persecuted and used in the farms for white people. Anyway, all
Lynn,
this.
can I just ask a question about that? Because one of the most shocking things to me is it's after we came back from Germany, where we
Yeah.
saw, it was after World War II, we had saved Europe. We had saved them from fascist Nazis.
Okay.
And wherever we went during those 3 years that we were living there, we were just, it was like, oh, Americana, Americana. We went on a camping trip once, and we got into outside of Amsterdam, and there was all the campgrounds were filled. And so we were having a dinner at this little tiny house restaurant. And my dad asked the woman who owned the little restaurant, and their house was behind it, did she know anywhere where we could camp? Because the ones that we knew were closed. Oh, no worries. You camp in our backyard.
Oh,
And you
boy.
get dinner and breakfast for free, because we were Americans and we had saved them.
But that doesn't work today.
Doesn't work like that
go
today. And a lot of times I'm ashamed to be an American. I was really ashamed during Donald Trump's years.
Yeah, let me go back to my point, dear Shirley. So my point was that, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, for racism, which was, that's Black people in general endure. But let me say one thing. Don't you think that even Black lives or Black people, or call them what you want, African Americans, or aren't they racist? Yes. I will tell you why. I'm not a racist.
Reverse
I know
racist.
every day. It's not only the TV and mass medias. Let me say, they made Floyd, the guy that I'm so sorry for what happened to him by the, let me say, white national police, or call them whatever you want. There are good cops and bad cops too. I'm not generalizing, but I notice that in daily life, wherever I go, wherever I deal with, Black people are also racist. And I don't stop only in this. Some of them, and this is from my own experience, daily life, are more racist than those, as they say, white Americans.
Well, that's what they call reverse racism.
But there's a reason for that.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
it's that we were not brought here as slaves.
Yeah, let me continue.
They are the only population that came into this country as slaves.
And let me tell you more. Even our Jewish brothers and sisters have been persecuted too. Not only in America, all over the world.
I know, but I'm just talking about America.
American, yes, I'm talking about American.
Did you ever go into the South?
Black people, American, Asian, all these. They are, yes, they were persecuted, but still, it's kind of vice versa, or let me say, it happens back to them. They were persecuted. They had racist acts from other ethnicities, but they are now becoming more racist than those, what they say, white people. And this is a fact.
We don't have a lot of time left. Get back to one.
We cannot forget that.
Okay, I want to get back to something that Shirley said last.
Right, what so more than
Taoufik.
People and bad people, and we should not forget that.
It shouldn't be a matter of color. It should be the person itself.
Exactly.
The person itself.
We have to remember
we're talking about colors, please. They were racist in every side.
Everything is right, and there's still things happening to Jews. They're still in the United States, surely not in Europe.
I didn't say that. We
you see the election in France.
Country.
Yeah.
Look at all the white supremacists.
Exactly.
Yes,
Every state there are white supremacists crawling all over California. We're supposed to be the most liberal state in the New York and California, but there are just walk.
Not as liberal.
I've told you this before. In 5 minutes, I could be in Orange County. We are the last beach city in Los Angeles County, and then you step over a tiny little walkway, and you're in Orange County. And the whole flavor has become so racist. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, all over the world.
Okay, we don't
someone
have
just
a lot of
mentioned
time because I don't want these
French
meetings.
elections.
Okay, I have a
Shalom.
question. I have a question for the women or the man. It doesn't matter. We're trying to think of new topics. I am tired. This topic was actually thought of by Taoufik. We're trying to think of new topics to discuss. Something that causes conversation like this. I love that conversation because you're still thinking. When you think, you talk, and it's good to get it out. Can we think of any other new topics so that I'm not the only person thinking of them? And thank you, Taoufik, for helping me with this topic.
Before that, I just heard that Sister Sana mentioned the French elections.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell us more why you mentioned that, Sister Sana?
Sure. Well, I did want to, in terms of the American experience and then what's going on in Europe as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
always, for me, it's very fascinating to observe because I have family here, obviously,
Yeah.
but and then I also have family there, in Germany, France, the Netherlands, and so forth. And in terms of the election, it's I think it's first of all, I'm not sure exactly what happened that it went to a runoff and then was a big, I guess, blowout. But I feel like it's such a fine line here because I don't want to read too much that France is not does not have racial issues, does not have immigration issues.
Of course it
Yeah,
does.
plenty of
Yeah.
them.
So like there's some, I think there in particular, and it's always interesting to compare how I think England has incorporated immigrants and people from their former colonies, and then France also. But I mean, the fact that it was, I think about 43% voted for Marie Le Pen, even though it was a pretty big, I think almost 59% voted for Macron. I saw one figure that said 90% of Macron voters voted because to stop Marie Le Pen.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank God they did.
think of like how people here kind of say, "Oh, I'm voting anyone but whoever, anyone but
Yeah.
By
By the way, do you know that Macron won the elections just yesterday night? He
Yes.
won the
Yeah, we
elections.
all know that. Of
Yeah.
course.
He
Yeah.
did.
And let me tell you more about France because I come from a country close to France, and which France colonized our country for more than 60 years. We are close to France, and in Morocco we almost are Arabs or and French people. We learn French since the kindergarten. We know the culture. We know. I will tell you a short, statement about France. Quickly, Lynn, I won't be long. Yeah.
I can speak all day on these things, but anyway.
Yeah, I know because I'm part of, and most of my close people are married to French ladies, or even our sisters. I'm married to French guys. Anyway, I have no racism contest at all. But let me tell you plain truth. France, politicians, and even, unfortunately, as you mentioned, they are more racist than any other country in the world. And they pretend democracy, they're even their slogan, they say fraternité, égalité, liberté, which means brotherhood, equality, and
liberty.
yeah. So it's wrong. Don't believe in what the mass media's really
I know my son
saying.
went and they were treated terribly because they were American.
Oh my God.
My brother and his wife left the country.
And you know that French people are the most hate of I'm part of America, our culture. You know that French people, when you mention something American, whatever it is, people, culture, they just say they are, I'm sorry for the word, FCK. You know what I mean? They are.
No, spell it all out, Tofi.
No. Respect. I respect everyone. So those people there, now it was in general. We say that the country is not in the spot good because of politicians. Let me tell you, and I will finish. French politicians and people, and I am close to many of them. My niece Sarah is French, and she was born in France. And my brother married her mom, and one
Yes,
I
this is
asked her about election. You know what she said? It's kind of craziness. Yes, Macron did it, and even Mary Le Pen, if she did it, we will get rid of Muslims there in France. How can you imagine that normal people, citizens, say this kind of racist or stuff? They are
This is our
being
world
racist.
today,
Taoufik,
2022.
we've had out here at the border when Trump came into office, we had a guy that worked for us. He was the most amazing craftsman. He could do anything. Augustine. He was when he was 13 years old, his father drove him up from deep into Mexico and dropped him off at the border and said, now go and make a life for yourself. At 13,
I think
this
that's
kid was on his own. He just brought here. We have the Spanish people were here. The Mexicans were here way before the white people were.
Yes.
That's why my street is Coronado. The street over is St. Joseph.
right.
The street over from that is Jimeno. The street over that is Termino. These are all Spanish, Hispanic names, words. And yet, when Trump came into office, we had, I was just stunned at the number of people who were willing to turn in illegal immigrants who had been here for 20, 30, 40 years.
Oh my God.
Causing no troubles, taking care of the jobs that white American men would not do.
That's what I mean. They're taking jobs that our men won't do. They're not hurting
went
anybody.
America. Those Spanish and immigrants in general, they went America
of
because
America.
of them. America
They
wants
made
to
everything
do
better.
Right.
Yes,
I remember when they first started, there was a big proposition out here in the early 90s. And it was that's when the deporting idea started. And gather them up and deport them all. Didn't matter. I remember when a little girl was watched her father being taken out of his car and into what's the group called that
which group?
The ones who are arresting all the Mexicans and deporting them.
The CPD border.
Yeah.
Patrol?
Thank you. She watched her daddy just being taken away from her. She's never seen him again.
Oh my God.
Ever. This was just one little isolated thing. Here in California, which was Spanish, Mexico and Spain had California before we did, and before all of that, the Native American Indians. Yeah. Right up just a mile from where we live is a town called Signal Hill. And it is a hill, a pretty big hill. And it was named that because the Native American Indians used to use that hill to send smoke signals to the canoes out in the Pacific to let them know that they were close to coming home.
Yeah.
This wasn't our land. We took it.
Yeah. We
took it from them, and then we turned these people into pariahs. What do you expect to do if generation after generation after generation, you're put down, you're held down, you're not allowed to move forward, you're not allowed to go to school. If you do, you're given a subpar education. And yet we call it our land.
Same place applies for Canada. French people and British people were there as considered, and there were a lot of native Canadians also. And France did the worst parts in what we call now Quebec. You know, Quebec is French.
Quebec.
You know,
Quebec.
Quebec, yeah. Same. I'm sorry, bullshit happens in Canada too. In you know, let me say America, North America, Middle America, and South America. There were no white people there. I'm not against white
No,
people.
they were
but
all, it's just
yeah,
crazy. It's
we should take in
crazy.
consideration this. So now they say, as you said, sister, we should fire Mexican from the borders. Get out of here, you first. It's their country, but we are not naive. We are not naive. We're not idealists. We are supposed to live together, of course. If we go with this logic, we can say that everyone is from nowhere. We are all immigrants, and we all landed on another country.
White
This is
supremacists do not want to hear that.
No, they don't.
You're right.
They do
That's
not want to
that's
hear
my
it.
point.
It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same.
I remember years ago when the first there was a proposition to basically it was aimed at getting deporting all of the Hispanics.
Mhm.
And I was on a road trip up the Central Coast and coming back down, especially as I hit Montecito. And there's that's where Harry and Meghan live. It's where Oprah lives. It's a beyond wealthy area.
Mhm.
And here out alongside the freeways and going up into you could see going into people's estates, it was all Mexicans doing the labor, cleaning the debris, cleaning up, trimming the trees, making sure the freeways were safe of litter. This is all Mexicans. And I remember driving through there and going, how can you people in these enclaves say you want them out of here when number one, it was their country before it was ours. And I'm Santa Barbara, that's a Mexican name, Santa Barbara. Montecito. We have, and yet you're willing to have them all deported because they're Mexicans. And that makes them lower than us.
And this
It's
applies for
total
Africa.
BS.
This applies for Africa, yeah, everywhere. It's
Yeah.
not only in
I have a friend of
America.
mine, I was speaking about, if she's originally from Haiti.
Yeah.
And the whole relationship with France and everything, you know, it's all, I think there's so much to learn, I think, you know, and to kind of decide, okay, how do we best go forward? You know,
Exactly.
like right now, like how do
Well,
we?
if you hide it, you don't go forward. In 1992, I was very involved in a spiritual center called Agape up in Los Angeles, Santa Monica. And I was walking out of it was primarily African-American. It drew thousands of people every Sunday. It was just it was really, really neat place to go to until it wasn't. Till the minister started having affairs and divorcing his first wife and having an affair again and divorcing his second wife. You know, and I think now he's on his third wife, but I left. I just went, you can't stand up there and talk to us about being, by the way, Lynn, he was part of the book, The Secret.
Oh.
If you look at that book, you will see a
Yeah,
picture of Reverend
Yeah.
Dr. Michael Beckwith.
Yeah.
He was a part of that book.
Okay.
Anyway, I was walking out of the building one day. This was in the early 90s. And I heard this, there was a huddle of African-American people just like maybe 2 feet from me. And they were in a circle and they were going, Tulsa, Tulsa. And I thought, what are they talking about? Tulsa? Who talks about Tulsa? So I walked over and I said, they knew me because I ushered, they knew my face because I was always there and I was always, you know, helping, but they didn't know me. I walked over and I said, excuse me, wasn't eavesdropping, but I couldn't help hearing you talk, that you're talking about Tulsa. Remember, this was 1992. They said, you haven't heard? And I said, heard what? The massacre.
Oh, yeah.
In Tulsa.
I had never heard of that
I
before.
I got in my car, I got on my phone, I called my mother. the one thing we all had in common, even though I went to 9 schools in 12 years and 2 universities, my home, I always thought of Tulsa as my home because that's where my family came from. My great grandpa had brought was one of the first to come into the state when it was still the Indian Nation. I called my mom and I said, I want to know why you never told me about a massacre in Tulsa. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, Mom, it happened in 1921. She said, well, I wasn't born then. I said, but you should have heard about it when you were growing up.
Well,
I said, you graduated from school in Oklahoma. My brother and I both graduated with graduate degrees in Oklahoma. We never heard about this. And you know when it exploded was when Watchmen, the movie Watchmen was made, directed and starred Regina Hall. And that movie tore a hole in me because it happened, Greenwood was built right alongside downtown Tulsa. And it was super prosperous. They had their own banks, they had their own stores, they had their own lawyers, they had their places of worship. They were a self-contained community that was all Black. And they ended up being so successful that they were dubbed the Wall Street of Midwest, of the Midwest, the Black Wall Street of the Midwest. In a matter of 2 or 3 days, there was a young kid who polished shoes at a store called Rinberg's, which, by the way, was owned by a Jewish family. And I worked at Rinberg's from my senior year until I transferred to the University of Oklahoma in my senior year in college. I worked there part-time for years and never knew anything about 2 blocks down
hidden
was a
secret.
burial ground.
They changed the history.
I knew the elevator. A little boy, a young boy, would go into Rinberg's and go up to the 2nd floor, which was all for the men's clothing, and he would shine shoes. And he got on the elevator one day, and I know the elevator, he got on an elevator and a young white woman got on. And she started screaming, he's attacking me, he's attacking me, he's going to rape me. This is a boy. And she ran off the elevator, and the next day, hundreds and hundreds of white men were surrounding the courthouse in Tulsa to try to get they wanted to hang him right there. This was a 13-year-old kid. They wanted to hang the nigger. Pardon me, but I have to say it.
Yeah, that's how they talk. That's how they talk.
It's just horrible.
Okay,
now listen. Anyway, that was a massacre.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to hear with you.
It was a massacre in Oklahoma that was never discussed, never taught, and even the Tulsa World newspaper did what you never do with a newspaper. They pulled the whole thing out of the archives so that it just disappeared. Terrible. When I asked my mom why she didn't know about it, blah, blah, blah. It had been blacked out. They had just blacked it out, wiped it out. Do you know today they're still finding remains of bodies? Greenwood was.
Okay, let's go back.
Go ahead, Sanam.
Go ahead. Sanam started something and then we interrupted her, and that was the end of it. Sanam,
I'm not interrupting. I'm only asking Sanam
what you were starting to say about your friend from Haiti.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah. She actually, her family and her are here now.
Good.
But she is, but she's, so very connected to the culture and community, and has a passion for helping Haiti. And one of the things that she's looking, and I told her to kind of see what other organizations are doing and so forth as well, in terms of reparations, perhaps from France, and seeing how that, because that really, in that context, there's a lot in terms of what banks were doing and, what happened when Haiti got its independence. And it was interesting because I was mentioning to her that Kate Middleton and Prince William were recently in the Caribbean, and there was a lot of talk in terms of those islands and as well in terms of what how to navigate like going forward and what the best thing is. And so, I guess each one, Barbados has done something different, and Jamaica and the Bahamas might proceed differently. I'm not sure. But, it's always, I think, actually, I guess getting back to maybe your original question, Lynn, in terms of BLM,
Right.
maybe on a global
Yeah.
scale, this is a result of all this
I
discussion.
think that's
and
wonderful.
recognition.
That's it.
Yes.
Isn't
You
that
know,
wonderful?
And it was interesting, like just last week, Mayor Adams here was
Yeah.
speaking about, well, make sure all Black lives matter. Like if you see crime and so forth, I think after the subway shooting,
Right.
there was like 12 or 13 afterward, in the Bronx and in Brooklyn and so forth. And, he wants to see that same level of it. And he got a little pushback on that actually. But, in terms of, gun violence, that's one of the things I remember. One of the nurses I was hearing from one time, she said, I saw a 17-year-old kid brought in for a gunshot. And I remember him saying, begging us, please don't let me die. And that kind of got her, that kind of formed her views on gun control, in a big way, like when you see it up front like that.
Mhm.
But, I think there's so much, I think, I don't know if the right word is complexity, but I think, like you said, Shirley, I remember reading or learning about the Tulsa Massacre only, I think, since BLM, since
Yeah, that's when it really
2018,
exploded.
like during the pandemic, I think,
It took
and-
it took a movie for this
Mm.
thing. When I found out about it in the early 90s, and I got it back in my car and called my mother, who was born and raised in Oklahoma, went to school.
But she didn't know about it.
She said, "What are you talking about?"
yeah.
And then get this.
Mhm.
She said she gasped and she goes, "Oh my God, Shirley. Maybe
Oh,
that's the night." Now I'm going to say a word here that I don't like to say, but it's got to be said.
That's okay.
She said, "Oh my God, I wonder if that's the night Uncle Carl used to brag about the night we killed all the niggers."
Disgusting.
And I went, "Uncle Carl?" And my second statement was, "Is he blood? Am I related to him by blood?" She goes, "No, he married your Aunt Maddie, your grandpa's sister."
To make it any better.
And I went, but she said he would brag about it. And she remembered it as
That's
a
why
little
you need.
girl.
But that's why you need movements. You need movements.
Absolutely.
Without.
They just buried it.
We've been in here over an hour, and it's been wonderful. I think the next meeting we'll call will be food for thought, and we can bring in any topic that we want to discuss. We will just let people do their thing, and then we can ask questions after they do their thing. I think that instead of designating any one specific topic, food for thought might be a good thing because we could each bring in our own.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, Lynn.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
I do.
Okay, everyone, thanks for coming. We love you all, and we'll speak to
Thank
you soon.
you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you for California.
Take care. Thanks for
Of course, if you're in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you.
And-
See you in 2 weeks.
Enjoy the last
Shirley.
few days of Ramadan, and I'm looking, Lynn, forward to the project soon with
Yeah.
with your kid, with your
Aw.
with the volunteers and everything. So hopefully
I can't
back up and running in May.
I
Yeah.
can't wait. I miss it.
Salam.
Allah Akbar.
Do you volunteer during Ramadan, Salam?
I do. I take it day by day. But
Wow.
yeah, I do because it's in some respects it's a little bit easier for me because I'm not I don't work out in the sun or you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
kind of you know, like in a physically strenuous situation. So
Yeah.
and it's not the heat of summer right now, so you
Yeah.
know, but you
Are
know,
all
you
your,
kind of,
are all the projects virtual, Sanam, that you volunteer for, or do you?
you don't know, there's some, you know, I haven't found too many that have fit my schedule that are in person. I do sometimes do the coalition.
Yeah, oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was one I saw, and I don't get out there too often, but in Governor's Island, there are caring for goats and chickens. So I figured
What's
that's
it?
gonna be
Sorry.
What's
goats
that?
and chickens.
Goats and chickens.
It's Governor's
Okay.
Island. It's sort of like I think they're trying to do more with it. There's not that much there now, except really beautiful fields and everything, but they have like, I think baby goats, before they can be milked, they are kept there and raised there and looked after. And I
Mhm.
mean, if you've ever been around goats, actually, it's funny, Miss Shirley, because I remember hearing in California, people were having them as pets.
Oh, yes.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, if you put them near anything green, they will eat. They just love
Well,
to eat.
and
It
I
was
was
so
gonna just
funny.
interject here that the city
Oh,
of Los
please.
Angeles, it's been probably 10, 15 years ago, brought in goats to
Wow.
downtown, right along the freeway, the 101 freeway that runs right through downtown Los Angeles. And they had goats all over the sides of the road eating
Wow.
the grass because we were not in a drought and we had so much grass growing that we needed to cut back the grass so that everything wouldn't burn when fire season came. And it
Oh,
was
that's
just fabulous. And then
Wow.
the goat yoga thing, I think that's past. But have any of you heard of goat yoga?
No.
I
Yes,
have heard
no?
of it. I
You've
have
heard of
not
it.
really.
Both of my nieces lived in Chicago together for quite a while. And they sent me a picture once of them doing goat yoga. And I'm like,
Oh, Jesus.
What's
Okay.
about? What is yoga?
pardon?
He's
What's
asking you,
about
what is
goat
it?
yoga?
I have no idea. It was just a thing. No, it was the thing that somebody cooked up as a way to make a trend for a while of doing goat yoga, where you had a goat that you would do yoga with.
Sounds crazy.
It's
Okay,
like a
whatever.
pal, I
Whatever.
guess, for yoga. Like
Love
He's
you
buddy.
all.
Okay, we'll
Love
see
you
you
all.
soon.
Take good
Okay,
care, everybody.
bye.
Happy
Bye.
Ramadan and happy Eid.
Ciao, Bella.
Happy Eid. Bye now.
7 days left. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Love you too. Oh, love you much.
Love you. Bye. Love you. Bye-bye.